we didn't expect, or at least when I say we, I don't mean me and you, I mean general FinTwit commit was we will have good earnings and then we might sell off into September as these fears escalate. But it looks like we've
Yeah.
preponed this by like 5, 6
Well,
weeks.
yeah,
Is that what you think?
these things already ran into the numbers. I mean, talk about the word priced in. You knew that money. So here's the money was only flowing to a few places. If you could see, like only the big cap winner names were really the ones ripping, like Shopify, Square, SE, like Apple, Microsoft. Those are the names that had money flowing into them because people were still uncertain. And so they flew like, all the way into their earnings. Apple went straight from 125 to 150s. I mean, like that's a lot of billions there. So that was pretty priced in. And then you look at, I mean, Google was always undervalued. So that's an interesting thing. Like I thought Google had been undervalued for a long time and it just is catching up. So I don't even think the Google move is crazy. It's very warranted in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, Microsoft, who else reported? Facebook went down a lot, but things were running so hard into their reports. I mean, it's just pricing it in, I think.
So where do you think we are headed from here now? Because we have some more earnings left. We haven't heard from some of the bigger names, but I mean, after this week, I would imagine people are changing strategy or already trying to figure out what's going to happen next. I saw a tweet earlier. Again, no one on this call take this for a fact, but the White House already talking about it's almost a done deal that lockdowns are coming. So what do you think's gonna kind of how do we shake out from here? I guess because you kind of saw this last year. Remember
I
September
literally, yeah, and I
21?
called this on the
33,
podcast.
I think
Everyone
33.
was saying 95% effective, and it's like for 3 to 4 months until it mutates enough, and like here we
Exactly.
are,
Mutates.
right? So, and then that's the reason. Like, I literally said this on like 4 episodes. It was talking about the fact that like just the standard flu A and B vaccines is like they're only 37 and 50% effective, the normal flu vaccines, and those also change every year. That's why they're not 100%. And so the same situation happened here, right? And this will continue to happen until it like gets down to the level where it's unable to go back, right? Like the herd immunity, but the herd immunity within time, right? Like because if you wait 4 months, whatever, the boosters, you have to keep taking boosters, and then all these things happen, and there's a lot of cracks, right, in the whole plan that goes on. So I think this work from home thing, and everyone was trying to return back, like October, September, all these big names, big companies were trying to do return back to the office. But I really don't know if that's going to be like 100% the case, right? Because I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's hard to think about what the U.S. would do if we talk about lockdowns. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I live
I
in Florida,
really
and I can tell you that I'm not like we're not locking down over here for sure. Like,
no, exactly. But see, you have the benefit of the weather, right? Northeast is gonna get colder in probably 2 months or so, and then that also trickles in with this time of this Delta rise, and who knows, maybe another variant kicking off. And then
yeah,
I
it's not
think
just the Delta. It's
it's not just
Lambda.
Delta; it's
Lambda's
the
out there
whole
too. It's whatever else
exactly.
continues to come, and
And
that's how
people
viruses work.
people don't realize is a lot of people that are not vaccinated are going to continue spreading this. And I'm not, pro or against it. That's not me to judge. Everyone has their own opinion on what they should do to themselves.
But in terms of
But
news flow, though, like
that's
it's yeah,
exactly. I'm just thinking more like right now, how is it affecting the markets? It's like even if you lock down, if people are not going to get vaccinated, scientifically, this is going to continue to still spread because it's
it's
in the air.
yeah, it's the headlines too. It's like you're
Mhm.
going to see it all the time. It's like Delta, then Lambda, like whatever else, like
Exactly.
variants are going to keep coming around, and you see like Rahul, we always go back to this because it was one of the craziest dip buy opportunities ever. Is Pfizer Monday like, wow, right?
That was insane.
And like I think we had one of those days like not long ago where it was
Well,
like
we just had it
Monday,
with SC, right?
right?
300 to
Yeah.
260. That's
Oh,
huge.
that was ridiculous. That was
That was the
literally
China song. Do you want to talk a little bit about
history.
that?
Yeah, I mean, why?
CCP.
So the only reason SC actually sold off is because people who own SC also own, right? Like they also own a bunch of other China names, and since all those China names were getting sold off, you have to start selling the port, right? You have to like get liquidity so you don't blow up if you're on margin or whatever. Like this, like Bill Wong, like it's that, but to lesser degrees most of the time. And so SC just got caught in the crossfire because it's probably held in a lot of similar portfolios as like a lot of Asian managers. And yeah, that's literally what goes down. And then because people were like, hey, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. And in fact, if people are selling out of Alibaba and Pinduoduo, like why would they not be buying SC as like a replacement for their Southeast Asian like e-commerce play, right?
That
So
Yeah, that paired with the estimates you've told me about that people don't realize till 2025. By the way, anyone on this call, if you haven't seen Tony's pinned tweet, there's two birds, one stone there. One, it talks about SC, so you can literally look at how to analyze SC. But I think the baseline foundation of that tweet is how to analyze the company, and I think that might be more instrumental than it like right now because of the sell-off that you're seeing, which I think is overdue and could even continue. And people, this is not really even a sell-off, right? The markets have
yeah,
been
but
hot
this
for a
is
while.
dude, like if Rahul, that post that I did, like like a month ago or whatever, maybe a couple weeks ago, where I broke down the
The
names that were
NDX.
in
Yep.
NASDAQ.
Yep.
This is exactly that on the other side. Obviously, this is like the earnings going down, right? And these stocks are moving down 7, 8, 10% a day sometimes, like Amazon today. That it's surprising actually that the NASDAQ wasn't down more, honestly. So I think people are like, oh man, there's like blood in the water. But like if you put it into actual like math context, like this was a pretty bullish day. Like I had a pretty good day. And that wouldn't be the case if it was really selling off, as in like everything was selling off instead of just like Google was down 21. What was Amazon down? Like 250? I think if you do the math there, that's more than what QQQ was down. I really don't know, but I'm pretty sure that is more than it was down today.
I think Amazon was down like 7%, whereas the actual tech index.
Amazon's what, like 9% of the Nasdaq. It was
Yep.
down 7%. Right?
Yeah, and I
Like
think overall the Nasdaq 100 was only down 70 points, which is not that bad. Like you're right, it could have
right.
been
So
worse.
that's
So
equal
actually,
to
you're right. It is somewhat
0.63.
bullish.
That's 0.63% of a move. So the Nasdaq was down 0.59. So technically the Nasdaq was up today. Like that's, so it wasn't really
That's
bullish.
insane. Yeah, if you take Amazon out, right?
If you really like do the math on how it's supposed to, like,
Mhm.
and if you know those kind of things, it helps you, because like I think everyone got super bearish over the week. Then I was like, LRCX was up 18.
Are
That's pretty
you,
bullish.
or since you're really good with inflows, outflows, I mean, you're a money manager yourself. Are you seeing anything right now? The flows? What's like? Can you give us any 2 cents there?
I mean, I just think today was like end of month action. We just held around 4,400 pin, but and like same with Nasdaq, just right under 15,000. I mean, we'll have to wait till the first day of the month, because also August, September are usually like not the best months. But I think we ripped really hard into September last August, so
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
I think we got that a little bit earlier because history often rhymes, doesn't repeat. This might have happened a little bit earlier, so you're right. I see Don's raising his hand multiple times. I'll finally pass him the mic. We got you. What's going on, Don?
I'm a little under the weather, so excuse the voice. But yeah, just another thing to your comment there, Tony, on SE. When that dip happened, do you think that there was also some fear in that 20% drop with Tencent and just what the government was doing with Tencent in general and some of these other big names, because Tencent has, I think, a 20% stake in SE, that there was fear of that affecting them?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously overdone, right? Like a great buying
Yeah,
opportunity.
I don't even see how, like, I get why people would think that, but like that would be the logic if it were the opposite. Like if
Right.
SE owned 25% of Tencent, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like given what,
No,
so this
totally. Like I think it was just
hundred
misinterpreted.
percent. I mean, like, and also it hit exactly the VWAP. I mean, like it was the trade everyone like goes to sleep and thinks about, and like I had it set before the open. It was I didn't know it was going to flow all the way that down, but every time I see sell off like 10%, 20, 30 points, it's just like, then you think like, I just see like a tweet talking about how everyone loves this company, it's like the best company in the world, whatever, like a day ago and like 4 days ago and like every other day on Twitter. So then you realize that, like, this name is loved all across, and then the exposure. Like if people wanted to own Alibaba and Pinduoduo, they would own SE instead. If everything's selling off, and SE shouldn't be down, and you're worried about the rest of your China portfolio going down, then you buy SE. So I had zero where it was going to go lower. I mean, I slammed it there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Tony
I think
Lines.
they'll do well on their earnings. I think they'll do well.
What do you guys
Yeah,
go ahead, Don?
I was just gonna say, I think like when these sell-offs happen, I encourage people not to have fear. Like this, like to your point, it was a bullish day today. You take Amazon out of it, and the Nasdaq was actually positive. I'm looking at my portfolio; nothing was like drastic. These are names all ran hot for a while, and you want to look at the fundamental business, especially when they're reporting earnings. Like if they're growing year over year, and I always like to look at operational margins and gross margin growth. Like, are they getting more efficient? Are they getting more profitable? Is revenue growing and they're spending less on marketing? If they're doing those things, they're going to continue to win, and they will be a winning investment, even if they miss an earnings beat because the analysts had too high of a uh, uh, forecast for them. But I just think definitely make sure to do the DD to really understand, is the business fundamentally getting better.
Yeah, no, 100%. Did any of you guys get a chance to look at Pinterest earnings or react? I mean, reaction. I'm sure you've seen, but the report. I mean, I glanced at it. I don't know if either of you got a chance to look at it.
It's so hard because like I did look at it, but also just thinking, they really, I mean, this is everyone going back out into the open and everything, and it's surprising like how well Snapchat did, for example, and like Pinterest didn't do as well. But then you like look a little deeper, and I think I saw a couple tweets describing about like the desktop users, right? And like those are the ones that weren't much so monetized as well. And so those are the ones that fell off a lot during this, but mobile grew. And so that's like an interesting thing. Like also like I don't own Pinterest long term, so I didn't like super dig into this report or anything. But I think like that was the case. So if that's the case, then I think that they beat on revs, they beat on EPS.
Exactly.
If you're looking for like it's like overvalued, well, like first of all, it was down 20%, so it was a 35 bill. And then you thought like, all right, well they did 600, what they 640 billion or
Around
something
that.
revenue,
Yep.
something like that. And then at that EPS, I mean it's not bad. It's really not. And you look at the other comparisons to other names, it's really not bad.
Yeah,
So
I thought it was a slight overreaction. I mean, the MAUs, yeah, they're kind of tailoring off, but I mean, they haven't even really began to monetize as close to what they potentially can.
So yeah, so to your point, sorry to jump in there, Raul. I'm just looking at this. To your point, Tony, they smashed EPS. They beat it by
right,
91%. They beat revenue by 9%, and they take an 18% on the chin today. And after hours, they're already climbing up almost 0.5%. Um, Talk about an overreaction. I mean, okay, so users are declining. How much have they actually grown internationally? Right? They have so much market share to make up internationally, and they have so much from a dollar per user growth in that
Mhm.
area,
yeah, that's
and let alone they.
no, I
Oh,
was just
go
gonna
ahead,
say
Tony.
that's one of the cool things I saw in there too is the growth per user of like how much money they made, right? So it's at the end of the day, if you like, everyone looks at the like monthly daily active users, those things, but is the company making more money, right? Like fundamentally, like at its core, it's like yeah, and I do like a leaner, meaner machine that can like expand. Because if desktop wasn't making them any money, like first of all, Snapchat doesn't have desktop, and like Facebook does have desktop, but it's a different audience, I'd say. So like if you think about where that would actually fall in either scenario, I think that's interesting to me just to like see next quarter what ends up happening.
Leader meter, I like that, Tony. By the way, KT's on this call. KT, if you want to request to speak, please. For those that don't know KT, he's a pretty awesome trader on FinTwit, and we've had a chance to connect with him. He's part of the Pounding Network. So KT, feel free to request to speak, and Tony can enable you. But go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, uh, and also too, if you want to read charts and learn trading, KT is ridiculous. Um, but with Pinterest, they're also all the partnerships are not even being fully monetized yet and fully in flow. You look at what they have with Shopify. You have Zoom that just recently did a partnership with them, and they haven't even unlocked the male audience in North America, right? They haven't figured out how do we get the male audience to use this app as we use Twitter today, right? Like we're for us investors who are on the FinTwit universe all the time, right? So there's just so much upside and there's so much optionality with the idea of commerce and video and being on the go to shopping and also the need for getting help to complete an idea or a project. I just think that you have to have patience when stocks do this, and this is a good look when it drops 20% for really no reason other than one metric that is looked at really scrutinized. Same thing with like Teladoc and other stocks that base for a year to 5 years. You look at Tesla and other stocks that do that. You have to have patience if you're wanting these big returns. It's just my 2 cents on
Dom,
that.
one more thing though, like if you really think about it, just in a more general sense, like I know you're a big fan of apps, right? And they're like pretty much the same price, but like just comparing it on that basis, or like in the opportunity cost, like in that sense of the word, you have a business that just acquired three things growing at 100%, and that's pretty incredible. Also for like how well they're doing fundamentally, and you made me like dig back into this stock a lot, but maybe touch on that for people, like how you view either of them in comparison because they're like same price, different
Yeah,
market
yeah.
caps,
So
but
yes, yes, no, that's like a perfect segue. So, very similar price. In fact, Apps is a higher share price, but totally different market caps. And that's a good point also that market cap is what matters. That's the size of the business. How many shares times the share price for anyone who doesn't know that. Don't get caught up in the price of the share. Uh, Apps has I always look for founder-led companies. Both are founder-led, but when you look at opportunity cost, this is a company with a $6 billion market cap, putting out nearly $1 billion in revenue by the end of this year, with 3 acquisitions, gaining 3 new legs of different types of business they didn't have before in advertising. They're profitable, and they are very diligent about their share dilution. And they also have won cultural awards for best employer in Austin, Texas. And they're a global company, and they're focused on where the mobile environment is, which is 90% of the world is Android. And they have a heavy footprint, a heavy partnership with Google, Verizon, and T-Mobile to help enable people to have those apps and bid out those apps for when you buy a phone. And 5G really hasn't rolled out. So when you look at all the tailwinds this company has, and they're only $6 billion, that's an opportunity cost where I put more money in that more than I did in Palantir recently. And I love
Yeah,
Palantir. It's a
Dom, you
great
made me
company. I
buy
think it
this.
has,
You made me rebuy. Like I bought this and traded
yeah.
it in the 20s, but like this is, I think, one of those like under the radar kind of names. If you just look here, like fundamentally, also it's like so undervalued compared to everything else. And it's also just growing so rapidly. Their EBITDA is growing faster. They all like they're crushing in that regard too. And they're going to be like 3 times next year's PE. It's not bad. 29 times 2023 PE. It's not bad.
No, and they have a great leadership team. I mean, Bill Stone has been there from day one, and also something that I look for with these long-term holds is having a culture that people want to stay. The tech industry is a very competitive industry, so either you're paying people out the wild zoo, or you have something special that you're trying to accomplish, and people are staying because the culture is so great. That's one of these companies that have that, and yet it hasn't even reached its full potential. I mean, it's under. It should be like a 25, $30 billion company right now, and it's only six.
What do you KT? Are you there? You want to say something?
I'm here. I'm just listening to what Dom is saying with respect to the long-term perspective. I'm more of a day trader, right? So,
Did you see anything, KT, interesting on the flows of options and that kind of workflow, like especially after yesterday's reaction?
so after yesterday's reaction, something that I was trying to understand with respect to Amazon, and also that I was looking into when Netflix kind of reported. I'm kind of seeing some kind of stagnation in the number of people that are actually signing up for these services, right? Like if you see Netflix and Amazon, um, like in the US, I'm not talking globally. In the US, I'm kind of seeing that stagnation per se, and after that, like that, maybe that's the reason why they are trying to push out globally. And then when it comes to pins, I saw that they had about 93 MAUs for USA, and then 300 million plus for like internationally, right? And and that was seen as a bad reaction per se, where all these big tech are trying to move. Like they're not trying to move out of USA; they're trying to penetrate more into the emerging market space. But Pins has is doing really well in those spaces. So when it comes to Pins, I mean, I don't have a position yet, which I'm thinking of adding next week or so as a long-term hold. But these are things that I'm kind of seeing with respect to Netflix and Amazon. Um, these big tech trying to like penetrate into the global markets even more as we'll see in the next few quarters, maybe. Uh,
Yeah, that's an
uh,
interesting point that you mentioned about Pinterest. How they're already pretty well internationally, whereas some of the other tech companies are trying to expand there, and it's viewed opposite, or Pinterest is treated differently. That's a good point, KT.
yeah, and then with respect to the options flow, I know, like with what I have seen with Amazon, at least today, I didn't expect a bounce at all on Amazon. At the same time, I didn't even expect a sell off, because this is the exact point where we saw a huge dark pool print about 2.5 weeks back on Amazon. So I was like, okay, let's see if it kind of bounces here or does something at all. But it kind of just was there, right? Like it lost 300 points in a couple of days. Like yesterday before close was 30 points, and today was 275 points. So yeah, that was kind of bad. And then and you see all these Delta variant news and things that are coming out. Many people are saying the market crashes because of that. But if at all, like this is my perspective of it. I might be wrong. This is just a perspective that I'm looking at. Uh, if at all the Delta variant was of the market going down, the banks would have just collapsed a lot, because the way the banks make money is through the interest rates and things. And once the market figures out the interest rates are not going up, the banks start collapsing. And I did
That's
not
so
see that
correct.
this morning.
So correct. So yeah, you're definitely right. So I think it was just a mix of a lot of things then, and it wasn't one in two particular. But I mean, I think there's been in the last couple of weeks where you've seen it be, all day it's the Delta variant headline. So I think this specific one was not. I think you're.
We have a celebrity on here, by the way. I don't know if you guys noticed. Avo Deals is on. Avi, I don't know if you want to talk. Oh, there he is. There. Hello.
Jumped on, so I have no idea
Well, it's
where you
fine.
guys are at.
You're a celebrity, right? You just come on for a little bit and just hop
Yeah,
in
I
when you
am.
feel like it.
As a D-list celebrity, I'm very excited, or Z-list, bro.
You change your name. You included different people in your bio. You're doing a lot lately, Avi. By the way, he's
Yeah.
getting married next week, guys. So go follow Avi. Send him a gift. Maybe send him a tweet or message as well.
I actually did get one gift from a fan, or whatever, a pounder, which was awesome. But feel free to empty your bank accounts and send them my way. That'd be awesome.
You didn't do that lunch poll that I thought you would bring back today. Maybe
You know
some
what?
other
Yeah,
day.
I've been heads down. I got to finish a bunch of shit before the wedding for I guess my side hustle, which is my boss thinks it's my real job. And then I've been just grinding here on a few deals here.
I
But
mean, it is nice that we have Avi and Tony together. It's been a couple spaces since we've had that, or maybe last time Avi came on. But I would like to ask these guys, since we have so many people on a Friday, you guys did get to interview the co-founder of Square, and maybe talking about that on the pod. How was the experience, though? Just like, starting this a year
yeah,
ago, now you're interviewing billionaires. It's pretty crazy.
I'll jump in and then Tony, feel free to add there. But it was pretty surreal, and thanks to nepotism. I don't know if it's because Pound the Table was big or because we knew someone that knew him. But that was very helpful, and I think it was extremely interesting to hear from someone who co-founded about like how it started. Right, it literally started him glass blowing and trying to actually learn like why he couldn't have American Express credit card pay for it, and so he wanted to like solve for that problem. And he didn't talk us through the entire 12 years or whatever it took to build it, but just the discussion around how it started and what he's doing now, and just kind of his core thesis on life around entrepreneurs and how things are viewed, and just like he was saying some things that we paused the recording and we're like, hey, you want us to probably edit that part out, right? And so he gave us some like pretty interesting intel on Square, and he's actually a chair of the Fed as well, which was some pretty cool things that he was saying about that as well. So I don't want to spoil too much, but Tony, I don't know if you felt. Oh, he also clowned me, which was awesome. He like came after me, and that alone is well worth listening to the
That's the
podcast.
best moment on any podcast interview that's ever
I was like,
happened.
all right, you're a billionaire. That's fine.
It was so yeah. I mean, just talking to somebody who operates at that level with that kind of vision is not something you get to do much like often. So I definitely soaked in a lot of that conversation, and then I'm gonna listen to it a couple times myself because I'm really excited to get that one out to people. Honestly, that's by far the best interview we've had yet.
Is that the plan this weekend? Is that what we're launching?
Yeah,
Avi?
yeah. I have so much DD on Square, so we're
Yeah,
going.
we're gonna kind of focus and highlight on Square, and then we're gonna also have him on for the interview. I gotta finish editing the interview just because Wi-Fi. He was like in one of his vacation homes, and the Wi-Fi
Yeah,
wasn't
we
the
didn't get the
best.
choice. It was like talking
We
with the
tried
top.
to stop it a few times, but then we felt it was like obnoxious to like keep pausing him. So some of it we're gonna have to do some Dr. Dre work here and edit some stuff out. But it's very cool. I mean, this guy was working alongside Jack Dorsey building this entire platform, and other things he's doing as well right now are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Just to actually get that opportunity and see what you guys have been building, kind of from the inside. Before the perspective was outside. Now, kind of working more closely, and every day there's new ideas or topics or things. Tony's in the lab for Avi's going and finding different ways to improve the product and content for everyone. This is exactly what I would want to see as a founder. So thank you guys for keep on doing that. I guess another stock Dom wanted to talk about, Shopify. Does anyone want to jump in on that? Dom, I know you mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, I can let one of the other guys talk first on it.
Dumb, I
Tony,
want to buy
any thoughts?
Shopify again, man. I want to buy it again. I got out in the 1,000, like right over 1,000. I was.
Dom, this is your number one holding. You got to be.
Yeah, Dom has to start. I don't know how it's getting pushed. Tony doesn't even own
Okay,
Shopify.
okay. I
Tony
thought
doesn't own
I
Yeah,
always feel
Shopify.
like
4% the first day.
Yeah, that's
I always feel like on Spaces I talk too much, so that's why I was going to give someone else a chance for the floor. But yeah, I'll talk about Shopify all day long. So it was Avi my number one holding until Tony convinced me around opportunity cost, which is a logical, just it's a principle you can't argue when you look at something so heavily concentrated in what you're holding, and the market cap being so big. I took a decent portion off of Shopify and I put it towards apps and Palantir. But with that being said, Shopify is still my number two, and Trade Desk is number one. Shopify crushed it. I was on the Earnings Spaces event with Max and David Marlin and Bahama Ben, who just awesome guys. If you don't follow them, they're great. And the street's punishing them for like a little bit of a decrease on revenue year-over-year growth. They had high 90s to 100% year-over-year revenue growth for like 3 or 4 quarters in a row. They have 57% year-over-year growth in revenue, but they beat estimates by 7% in revenue. They smashed earnings per share at 130% beat. And they also took a prospectus out for, I believe it was like 10 billion, if I'm not mistaken, recently for shares on stock. And they also have 6 billion of cash on hand. So when companies have all of this in their arsenal and no debt, and the leadership team that they have, this is a long-term hold. That this is the future of the next wave, whatever you want to call them, FANG or whatever. Give them an abbreviation. But Shopify is one of those letters, because they are going to be a integral part of our
I
commerce
literally,
universe. They now
yeah,
have.
Dom, no, you're right. I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, I literally asked a poll, which I have pinned over here. I said the next $1 trillion company, and it was Square, SC, Shopify, neck to neck, 4,000 votes in. So I mean, decent amount. And Shopify won with 38%, SC at 35.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would put both of those. I would definitely put C Limited, Shopify, and Square, the triple S there, in how they're driving commerce. And even someone asked, they said, "Do you think that Shopify could be a competitor to Square and PayPal?" And I would say they're different businesses, but yet they're blending. They're getting to a point where it's starting to blend in between, and blend.
100%.
I want to hear
Yeah,
Tony's take on
Ben,
it from like a
yeah,
valuation
yeah.
Yeah.
perspective.
Let the king talk.
Value.
Dom is so right, man. Like it's actually hilarious when you think about like so thinking about Shopify like in terms of valuation, they doubled plus their EPS. So I think everyone's worried about these companies and seeing like are they ever going to turn out this genuine profit? And they clearly are showing you that even in like a post COVID with bunny ears like my fingers were like world. I mean whatever one want to call this, whatever we're in right now. But I do think Shopify is going to be one of those, Dom, like without a question. And you also just like you look at like what you were just saying about a brand, and I tweeted this the other day saying that like at the end, like a company starts as an idea, then it becomes a lot more, and then it ends up at the end just being a brand, and that's the craziest thing to think about, right? Like, can you really say the only like what Facebook really is, like what Google actually is? Like, there's so many moving parts that it just becomes like a corporation, like in like that sense of the word.
Literally.
And Shopify is going to be one of those
I
as
mean,
well,
even just talking about
for sure.
Facebook, like you just mentioned, Tony, in their earnings, they started the call, or I guess the transcript was talking about the metaverse and how they're like, they don't see themselves as a social media tech company.
Yeah, what are they even doing? Hey, that's what I'm saying. All
Insane.
these things are just doing what they have. They have users, they have money, they have clout, they have like longevity, and they have proven track records. It's
Yeah, the
really all
biggest
that
thing I
it
think
is.
they have is like you said, proven track record of execution time and time again. Right? They've shown it for so many years at a great rate and have expanded. Like like Facebook was considered not to be where it is when it first came out. IPO at $10, $11 billion at $30. I mean, people were shitting on Morgan Stanley for overpricing the IPO, and 10 years later, it's a $1 trillion company.
You have it here, folks. I mean, it's 100% how I feel that, and like feel the same for SC and Square, and also like I think it's just crazy. I wish Nat was on here. I don't know where he's at.
I was gonna say,
we
did
should
you
be
want to
talking
touch on
about
genomics a little bit? That's like your hot
yeah,
topic
the
right now.
CRISPR earnings, man. Like we already knew that we already knew that that deal with Vertex was happening. We knew that they were gonna get that collaboration revenue. But I think just putting that into perspective for people, just like going back and seeing that they did like 950 EPS, and that's off of that one trial. And sure, like it's not going to be every quarter. Like I don't think they have anything slated for next quarter or nothing much at all. But it's just a matter of how much they have down the pipeline. That's just one of many, many, many things that they have that's going to be giving them revenue from stuff like that, and then eventually giving them profits and royalties from creating drugs and being able to fix like just being the new face. Like they're going after pharma, like this is the new wave of it. So anything that they start doing is going to be eventually
It's
very
crazy because
profitable
Avi was
because
predicting a lot of this, but he never tweeted about it. So Avi, good call on all this CRISPR stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty genius. Speaking of
I
being a
think it's the
genius,
pod. Tony's probably
Tony,
helping
what'd you
you
say?
decipher these
You said
companies.
right on. For sure, there. I just saw after hours it just popped up. But didn't you say, Tony, like exactly 8:10 or something on the last one?
yeah, 814. It's
8:14.
it's 814 after hours. I don't know whoever that person is on part of the share care army, but you're wrong.
Tony Tops.
But BB, I'm with you. Team Avi, let's
We
go.
always joke that Tony Tops. You call the top as best as they come. Is this something frothy right now, Tony? What do you think? Like
I really don't know, man. I think that there's a lot of times where you can like but I mean, just it was just so ambiguous, right? You have like the Fang leading us down, but we had Tesla up, we had LRCX, Monster, ServiceNow, Netflix was up, Intelia, like genomics were running off CRISPR, so it was like not an overall like bad day in the market. I guess just like if you're only in
Yeah, no,
FANG
and
stuff.
shifting to your co-host Avo, he actually put out a tweet, very strong tweet on Twilio. Avi, what do you like about Twilio that much? That's like the one stock you've been just raving about for months. I mean, I'm long on it with you, but I'd love to hear your take. You're a software guy.
Yeah,
He's a software sales guy, by the way, guys.
sure. So poor timing on the tweet because it dropped
Well, not
like 4% or
necessarily,
whatever,
because it
four point
doesn't matter
six
what
percent.
price you get in if it's a 5-10 year wait.
No, of course. No, this is one of those like strong. We always kind of compare, or I do at least, like stocks to like cruise ships or some of those like massive ones that are not going to ever like move. Right? It's going to take a lot to take it down. Like almost like in tech, it's like a CRM, Salesforce type of thing. There's like the jet skis that are like the ones that can go really fast, but they also can get tipped over if a big wave comes. And so like that's how I use this analogy. And I think I see a lot of Twilio just from the gut feeling and seeing the acquisitions that they've recently made over the past few years of
Yeah,
SendGrid and
segment.
Segment for me. Segment was the biggest one for me. Just seeing kind of everything coming together. And the one we talked about this a few times. Like I don't chart, I'm all heart. Like I joke about that. But other research, I'm in technology, so I hear from other customers, other tools that they're using. And Segment was a tool that was, they could have IPO'd on their own. This is a tool that is a CDP, so it pretty much connects online, offline, all of the different tools, email, etc., in one session, so you don't duplicate your customers. And everyone I talked to just like adored this company. They were like all very excited to go onto their every annual kickoffs where they'd have their the conferences that they put on. Everyone just loved the segment, and then I just saw Twilio was always a name I heard, but didn't really know anything about it. It is kind of it's for developers, and it's very interesting in terms of the different products that they hold. But the most simple one that everyone in their daily lives could know about is if you get an Uber, right, and then you get a text message saying the Uber is 2 minutes away. That more than likely for like every like thousands and thousands and thousands of companies, they are kind of the main folks that do that as one component, but also with SendGrid acquisition, they can track it over email. They're basically becoming like this whole
It's like
communications platform.
exactly
So
communication of understanding your customers and knowing all that data in one place shop. It's funny that you bring up Uber, because Uber is the one company that actually sent it down in 2017 because they thought they were good enough to do this and build it themselves. But what people don't realize is building what Twilio has built, that network, is years worth of effort and a lot of cost. That's why wasn't done for so long. So this is a powerhouse in the making. I mean, especially with these acquisitions. And to that credit about Segment, Jeff Lawson. I mean, I don't know if Andrew will know him. He was on. I forget the Segment founder's name, but he was
Founder-led.
persistent. He was persistent with Segment for a year and a half. The guy wasn't willing to sell it until Lawson sold him on the vision and kept pursuing it and talking to him for literally over a year on why this makes sense. And then they realized, yeah, they have a lot of synergy. And you're right, Avi. They could have independently, easily IPO'd. Like that's what the founder wanted to do. But it goes to show Lawson's vision of the company and interest of staying fully invested in building this.
yeah, I was gonna say like that, and Dom and both you guys actually who just spoke up there. You guys like finally like convinced me, and then I saw the segment. I was like, holy shit! All right, let me dig into this a little bit more. And yeah, segment for me. Just go to YouTube and watch Jeff Lawson if anyone's like interested, and you'll just be wowed. He reminds me of Mark Benioff, like just how wise and smart he's thinking about everything through, and he's not like a crazy. He did this. I was reading this amazing article. I should post it. About Twilio, and they were talking about Jeff Lawson's two pizza theory, the way that they kind of run the product teams. So they're saying like if two pizzas, you shouldn't have more people on a project that two pizzas cannot feed. And so the whole idea of that is to constantly be iterating, not have like dead weight on teams, and really just always be thinking of new things and whatnot. And I love that, like the kind of founder's mindset of baby and Dom. I know you always preach that.
Yeah. No,
I just got a phone call. I think
you're cutting off a little bit, but yeah. No,
I think if you get a phone call while you're on Spaces, it like messes it up. Anyways, I was just saying, like something I really love to do is literally just watch YouTube, see how much I trust the founder, and see like if they actually know what they're talking about versus someone like Trevor Milton with Nicola, like where they're just kind of a showman and not really actually understand what they're doing as a company. So
that's actually one of my Avi indicators that I implemented last year, where you had all these SPACs coming out and just so many things running that I decided not to own any company or invest in it unless I heard the founder or the CEO speak publicly at like a through a pod or a local event or on like TV, because you'd be surprised how many people don't even listen to the CEO speak at all and are just investing based on numbers they see on paper or what they hear on Twitter. And it's like you have to hear the person speak about the vision, then you truly realize the amount of passion towards the product he has, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and
Go
I
ahead,
would.
Dan.
Oh,
No, you
go
good.
ahead. Yeah, just his history, right? Like 19 out of my top 20 holdings are founder-led CEOs, and there's a reason for that. It's because they treat their companies like they would treat their children, maybe even better than their children, quite frankly. And they have a bigger vision, and they've stuck with the company. They didn't sell out. Could have. All these different CEOs could have sold their businesses, made their millions or billions, and been done. With Jeff Lawson, he worked at
Lead
Amazon
product at
before
Amazon. Yep.
work. Yeah, yeah. He got to see everything with Bezos behind closed doors and really understand that culture. He then went and was the founder of Nine Star Incorporated and started his own company with CTO for 7 years. And then he was the co-founder and CEO for the last 13 years at Twilio. So what does that tell me? And he was the founding CTO at StubHub. He's a entrepreneurial, serial entrepreneur. So he starts businesses. He knows what it takes to be successful, and he's been here the longest. He has a big vision. And this company is the picks and shovels for developers. That's what I want to invest in. The picks and shovels on the most important software developers for companies around in the enterprise space. We know that developers make the apps, the consumers consume the apps. This is going to be a long-term investment to stay hold on to.
100%. And actually, not only to add to that point, Jeff not only is a tech guy, but he knows how to articulate a vision, right? Some of these tech guys want to focus on technology and coding and developing, but if you hear him speak, this guy is some of the, as best as you can call some of the other CEOs. He's right up there. He has the way to talk, speak, articulate a vision. Like I said, convince people on. He's buying these companies. These are not small acquisitions, like Avi mentioned. Some of these are independently. They could have been IPOs. So, and I think Tony actually started a position in Twilio recently, right? Tony, on the recent route, or am I wrong?
He was in
Yeah, I was in
way
Twilio like
early in the beginning of the summer, like last
in
summer.
70s, 80s. Yeah, I had a lot of it. Sold it under 100, classic. But yeah, I was buying it like low 300 or like lower 300s, and even today I was adding some more. That just like goes to show like you can do wrong for not wrong. Like
Well,
I
you're not
sold
wrong.
early.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
just
sold
got out early, and
yeah, I was in other names.
you're an invader,
But
so it kind of goes with your style. I wouldn't call it
yeah,
wrong.
then you see over time like Twilio clearly is becoming far more, and then like now I'm happy. I don't mind buying it at this price at all.
You don't mind paying up when you see execution has been doing well. There's nothing wrong.
Well, yeah, but also like in the meantime, like what
You
if I like
reallocated, yeah,
traded
because you're all about
right?
opportunity
Like
cost. You nailed
But
that.
so,
Jeff Lawson's doing something. I was talking to my old CEO, and he was just talking about how smart Jeff Lawson is with the stock. Like he's using stock to essentially pay for all these acquisitions, and so he's keeping like the margins like smaller right now, similar to how Square was talking about with us. But yeah, this company, once they get everything integrated, and keep in mind too, protect. Like you make an acquisition, it's not a part of that tomorrow. Like it
It
does
takes
take
years, yeah.
a year or 2 years, before it's like it like messes up. Anyways, I was just saying like something I really love to do is literally just watch YouTube, see how much I trust the founder, and see like if they actually know what they're talking about versus someone like Trevor Milton with Nikola, like where they're just kind of a showman and not really actually understand what they're doing as a company. So
That's actually one of my Avi indicators that I implemented last year, where you had all these SPACs coming out and just so many things running that I decided not to own any company or invest in it unless I heard the founder or the CEO speak publicly at like a through a pod or a local event or on like TV, because you'd be surprised how many people don't even listen to the CEO speak at all and are just investing based on numbers they see on paper or what they hear on Twitter. And it's like you have to hear the person speak about the vision, then you truly realize the amount of passion towards the product he has, I think.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and
Go
I
ahead,
would.
Dan.
Oh,
No, you
go
good.
ahead. Yeah, just his history, right? Like 19 out of my top 20 holdings are founder-led CEOs, and there's a reason for that. It's because they treat their companies like they would treat their children, maybe even better than their children, quite frankly. And they have a bigger vision, and they've stuck with the company. They didn't sell out. Could have. All these different CEOs could have sold their businesses, made their millions or billions, and been done. With Jeff Lawson, he worked at
Lead
Amazon
product at
before
Amazon, yep.
yeah, yeah. He got to see everything with Bezos behind closed doors and really understand that culture. He then went and was the founder of Nine Star Incorporated and started his own company with CTO for 7 years. And then he was the co-founder and CEO for the last 13 years at Twilio. So what does that tell me? And he was the founding CTO at StubHub. He's a entrepreneurial, serial entrepreneur. So he starts businesses. He knows what it takes to be successful, and he's been here the longest. He has a big vision, and this company is the picks and shovels for developers. That's what I want to invest in. The picks and shovels on the most important software developers for companies around in the enterprise space. We know that developers make the apps, the consumers consume the apps. This is going to be a long-term investment to stay hold on to.
100%. And actually, not only to add to that point, Jeff not only is a tech guy, but he knows how to articulate a vision, right? Some of these tech guys want to focus on technology and coding and developing, but if you hear him speak, this guy's as some of the, as best as you can call some of the other CEOs. He's right up there. He has the way to talk, speak, articulate a vision. Like I said, convince people on. He's buying these companies. These are not small acquisitions, like Avi mentioned. Some of these are independently. They could have been IPOs. So, and I think Tony actually started a position in Twilio recently, right? Tony, on the recent drop, or am I wrong?
He was
Yeah, I was in
way
Twilio
early in the beginning of the summer, like last
in
summer.
70s, 80s. Yeah, had a lot of it. Sold it under 100, classic. But yeah, I was buying it like low 300 or like lower 300s, and even today I was adding some more. That just like goes to show like you can do wrong for 300. Not wrong. Like
Well,
I
you're not
sold
wrong.
early.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
just
sold
got out early, and
yeah, I was in other names.
you're an invader,
but
so it kind of goes with your style. I wouldn't call it
yeah,
wrong.
then you see over time like Twilio clearly is becoming far more, and then like now I'm happy. I don't mind buying it at this price at all.
You don't mind paying up when you see execution has been doing well. There's nothing wrong.
Well, yeah, but also like in the meantime, like what
You
if I like
reallocated, yeah.
traded it,
You're all about
right?
operating
Like
costs. You nailed that.
But
so.
Jeff Lawson's doing something. I was talking to my old CEO, and he was just talking about how smart Jeff Lawson is with the stock. Like he's using stock to essentially pay for all these acquisitions, and so he's keeping like the margins like smaller. And it was similar to how Square was talking about with us. But yeah, this company, once they get everything integrated, and keep in mind too, protect. Like you make an acquisition, it's not a part of that tomorrow. Like it
It
does
takes
take
years, yeah.
a year or 2 years, before it's like fully integrated. Let alone they're selling it. But this is why I'm investing in it, right? You want balls going, and I see what everything's going to do eventually.
Avi, I don't know if you're very right about that. I don't know if I told you in the last call, so not the most recent one, which was yesterday. The last one, one of his executives were saying that 70% of customers were inquiring about Segment. So the theme of not only buying, but the customers actually understanding what's happening, retaining that knowledge, and actually being interested in what's going on. It's a life cycle, and these guys are doing a good job. I know SendGrid is pretty well integrated by that cloud too, but this company hasn't even started. I can see them being like, following this NVIDIA or this, trade desk where they kind of run for a while and then eventually split. I think Lawson has the brain to do it at the right time.
Yeah, I'd agree. Again, I always make it's a completely different company than Salesforce, obviously, but like it reminds me of Salesforce like 4 or 5 years ago, and just similar leader. Like I really respect Benioff, and you watch Jeff Lawson just on YouTube, and like he's got his shit together. He's a guy that you want to put your money behind.
Tony saying something. Tony?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing about paying up like in price for the stock is I definitely like the fact that they have all these acquisitions, and that's probably the only reason I ever really wanted to like get back into it. Seeing that they can like take all these different things that they bought, and then once again, like back to the whole idea of it's just a brand. It's just a bunch of people paying for a bunch of services in an ecosystem. Like they have made an ecosystem now, so people will funnel in, and like Zoom is doing the same thing. I think buying Five9 and all that they've got going on. So I think you'll keep seeing this trend happen for the rest of pretty much ever. I think this is just like how companies develop, right?
Yeah,
Like
winners will keep winning, and yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that next generation of that new FANG. It could be Square, it could be Twilio, it could be SC, it could be Shopify.
Those are all in. Those are all the
yeah, you
next
called it heads of the table. Who are we kidding? Why am I naming them? This has been discussed. It's in the Bible.
It was already foreseen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is like I mean, those are the companies that were just putting out the best products, putting out the best. Like the customers liked it the most. They had the most offered, different things all over the world, expanding into different TAMs, low penetration markets. It was just exactly what you wanted to see. It's just COVID lets you see what Fang did over 5 years in 1 year. So
yeah.
And I have a thought on Fang too with that. So all of those companies are, some of the greatest technology companies of our time that really propelled our society forward with digital transformation before the buzzword came out of digital transformation, right? And now we're seeing this new class. And you hear a lot on CNBC and other stock shows and podcasts about diversification, and you can't have too much tech or too much of this industry. I think with tech, it's a little different because there's so many different kinds of technologies that will continue to propel how we do commerce, how we, interact with each other. And so you can't just say that all tech is the same, and you can have a whole bunch of those different tech names that you just said at the heads of the table, and I still say you're diversified, because they may go down together in certain times, but if they're the best in class, if they're like the top right in Gartner, then you want to hold those kind of quality companies with those kind of CEOs.
Yeah, 100%, Dom. I actually wrote a thread on this about predictions around emerging sectors, whether that be cloud computing, genomics, fintech, digital space, EVs. So if anyone wants to check that out, I've pinned it here. But yeah, you're spot on, dude. I think there's so much to be done. And I think these companies have also learned the playbook, right? Like they've seen how some of these other tech companies have operated. And you have the blueprints for it, whether that be Lucid and Tesla, or you have like other companies coming around, like whether it be Pinterest, seeing Shopify, like whatever. They're seeing these elderly companies or companies that have been there for longer already show a proof of concept of how to play with, like talk to your customer, show what the stock has done, and continue to innovate and execute. And they see the price appreciation they can have when they do that.
Love it. Do we have? I don't know if we're taking questions, but if people
I
do
don't
have
think we
questions,
are.
shoot us.
This was supposed to be a quick one. I mean, Tony was super
Okay.
busy. I just grabbed him.
Yeah, we got to get in the lab.
we gotta do the pod.
You
Yeah, we gotta do the
guys
podcast.
should shoot. So we probably won't do questions. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts. I mean, you guys are going to the lab now, right? Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear it on the podcast. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just if you guys don't follow Pound the Table, we give us a follow. It's fun.
Yeah,
We're gonna be talking Square.
Square
And,
interview coming this weekend. Yep.
exactly. All right, guys. Sweet. I'm happy I jumped on for a bit. This
Yeah,
is fun.
that was fun. Thanks, guys.
Have a good weekend. Be safe.
All right,
See you.
guys. Looking
Have a
forward
good
to the pod.
weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys.